Guess what came in the mail? Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. And this is the 4K Steelbook edition. Steelbook. Yeah, not even open. Let's open it up, shall we? And here's just your J-slip. And it's got all this information on the back, just like a normal physical copy would get you. But whatever, don't need it. But yeah, pretty cool artwork on the back as well. Minimal, nice. Inside, Blu-ray version and 4K version. And digital copy, which is great because sometimes when you get a steelbook version of something, it is just the disc. Pretty cool. I appreciate that they give you all these options, including digital. So I'm going to add this to my Movies Anywhere library. Thank you very much. Oh, and I forgot to show you. There's this cool artwork on the inside as well. So let's pop this 4K bad boy in, shall we? All right, let's take a look at the menu just real quick. Got your audio selections. English, Atmos. Yeah, thanks for automatically defaulting to Atmos and not 5.1 Dolby Digital like a lot of Warner Brothers discs do, at least in the past. I think they've kind of gotten the message that we don't want it to be defaulting to 5.1 Dolby Digital. Good. So if you weren't aware of that, Warner Brothers discs from the past, like The Matrix, for example, automatically defaults to 5.1. So you got to make sure and choose Atmos. I always got to check that just in case. Subtitles, nice. Special features. Highway to Valhalla in pursuit of Furiosa. Just curious how long this is. 57 minutes. Nice. Well, I mean, that includes credits, so probably more like 55. That's a pretty decent length for a behind-the-scenes documentary. Because sometimes you just get one that's like 10 minutes long. Come on. Okay, you've also got Darkest Angel, Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa, Motorbike Messiah, Chris Hemsworth as Dementus, Furiosa, Stowaway to Nowhere, Metal Beasts and Holy Motors. So a decent amount of special features. For a cinebuff like I am, I sure do like watching behind-the-scenes stuff, so yay! Thanks for providing that. Okay, honestly, I haven't even seen this. I never even saw this in the theater. So let's go. Let's watch it, baby. Atmos True HD. Oh yeah, baby. Wow. I just got done watching it for the first time. Again, because I didn't see it in the theater. But yeah, it's so George Miller. And I know George Miller is honestly not for everyone. His style, the plot may not be all that understandable or truly engaging, but man, you cannot deny the action scenes, just the sheer scale of everything. It looked gorgeous too. Although that being said, being 4K and viewing it on my new Sony Bravia 8 OLED TV, I mean, there were quite a few moments that were glaringly obvious green screen and that sort of thing, or composite CGI shots, etc. But at the same time, like, I don't know, it didn't really take me out of it. I've come to realize that that's just George Miller's style. Although I will say that I do think that there weren't as many CGI and green screen shots in Mad Max Fury Road, because I think that one in particular just took so long to make and to produce that he really took the time to have everything as practical as possible and not relying so heavily on CGI and green screen. So I think this one, just to get it out a little bit quicker and possibly have the budget a little bit less, because Mad Max Fury Road did go way over budget because of the intense action scenes, etc. But again, this looked gorgeous, especially the landscapes, everything being so orange and sandy and desert-like in contrast with the blue skies. It just made it stand out so much more because of it. The spectral highlights, I would say, weren't like the most dazzling, but again, it's just because of the movie itself. It's very earth tone driven. You're not going to get Aquaman style, spectral highlights. There are a lot of moments where fire comes into play, yes, and those were dazzling as far as highlights and how bright they were on the screen. But everything being in the desert where water is a luxury, whenever you did see something green and lush, it was just so colorful, just kind of popping out. But since this is an audio-centric channel, speaking of audio, goodness, the audio mix was spectacular. Mad Max Fury Road was definitely a staple of mine as far as demo-worthy Atmos tracks. And I would say this one stood out, maybe not so much. I mean, there were some moments with guttural, deep LFE, especially when vehicles would turn on, you would get that initial bass just coming through those subwoofers. So yeah, there weren't a lot of standout bass extension moments, but when they did happen, man, they just lit up my subwoofers. But I would say that what's more impressive is just the overall immersion. This mix just completely surrounds you. One of the standout aspects of the audio in general was the atmospheric stuff. Wind especially, because you're in the desert, because a lot of wind is just happening. When they're inside of the tent in one scene, you can hear the wind all around you. When they're outside, when sandstorms are blowing through, it just seems like there's constantly wind surrounding you on all sides. And obviously because it is the desert, whenever there is sand, there's just so much sand sounds. That kind of sibilant, grainy sand just kind of whipping through the soundstage. There's a pretty cool moment when Chris Hemsworth's character is holding onto a walkway and is trying not to fall to his death. But then all of these bullets come rushing down the walkway and start falling behind him. Man, that was cool because you could hear the bullets coming from behind you all the way through the soundstage as they're falling. But yeah, several moments where there's just vehicles coming all around you from this side and that side and traveling through the soundstage. Another standout sonic quality was the dialogue, especially when people were shouting. There's a lot of moments where people are talking on microphones through PAs, and because it's in the desert, because there's a lot of moments where you're surrounded by gigantic mesas just in canyons, there were so many times where people are talking or yelling that you could hear the reflections of their voice bouncing off the canyon walls, bouncing above you, really taking advantage of the Atmos soundtrack. But my goodness, the maiden voyage of the war rig, that whole scene was just incredible. Just the amount of planning that has to go into a scene like that and being able to capture it on film is just astounding. So many sweeping shots from right to left or left to right, or starting down low and then moving upward. There's a shot in that initial, maiden voyage of the war rig where this guy's got like these metal things on his feet and he's skiing on them behind a vehicle, and then he deploys a parachute and then he just lifts off the ground because he's got that parachute on, and the camera's just following him the whole time. And then it drifts to the left and around the war rig. Dude, cinematography is excellent in this film. But beyond that, you've got really good mixing when it involves bullets and just gunshots in general. All of the explosives that they throw from the air to the war rig, or explosives coming out and detonating on cars. So yeah, to be honest, I still think that Fury Road is just slightly better overall mix. It has been a while since I've watched Fury Road in its entirety, so I think I'm gonna go back and watch it again. But just from memory, as far as I can recall, I think Furiosa is a very, very close second when it comes to just the overall mix and impact. But that's saying something because Mad Max Fury Road is so high up on my list of demo-worthy Atmos mixes. But now I would put Furiosa in, I don't know, probably my top 10 Atmos mixes of all time. Again, not because it's just the most bombastic, but literally putting you in the middle of all the action at all times. That's what I really want from an immersive mix. It doesn't have to be loud, 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 loud coming at you all the time. I want those subtle moments. I want those quieter moments to still have just something going on at all times in all of the speakers, as opposed to a very front-heavy mix. Even when Chris Hemsworth's character talks to the leader of the Citadel for the first time, face to face, in that scene where they're talking, the entire time you hear like this chu-chung, chung, chu-chung, chung, chu-chung of like wells and water going, because there's different like little trickling streams going on in this particular room. So yeah, little subtle things like that just really put you in that space. So that's what I love about mixes like this, is no matter what the scene calls for, no matter how much action or how little is happening in the scene, there's always something that's putting you in the middle of everything. So yes, very good overall mix. Top 10 demo worthy. Yes, Furiosa is in that conversation. So yeah, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, highly recommend. Again, the movie itself is not for everyone. I understand that. George Miller understands that. You should understand that. But the audio mix overall is fantastic. All right, and I think that about wraps it up, folks. Now it's your turn. Have you seen Furiosa, a Mad Max saga? Do you own it now? At least in the US, it is now available, so you can go out and buy it if you want or order it online. Obviously, I will include a link to it in the description below if you haven't gotten it already. Are you a fan of George Miller and his style? Let's start a conversation in the comments below, people. As always, this world is crazy as it is already. Luckily, not as crazy as it is in Mad Max, but regardless, it only makes sense to be kind to one another out there. Don't just watch TV and movies. I highly recommend experiencing Furiosa, a Mad Max saga in an immersive audio format. And of course, always be listening.